Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to be making a potato soup for dinner tonight, but I kind of wanted some type of bread to go with it. So I am going to attempt to make some Indian fry bread that's not actually going to be fried, but going to be put on a griddle according to this recipe I found. So what we needed was 2 cups of flour and 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I almost pulled out baking soda, which would have not been a good thing to do. And 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. And then these need to be mixed together first. The dry ingredients need to be mixed together first. And then it says that you need 1 1/4 cups of lukewarm water. And so lukewarm, not hot, not cold, just kind of slightly warm to the touch. But it also calls for 1 tablespoon of either oil, butter, or shortening. And I'm going to use the shortening. And I'm going to get that into the mixture first. Now, I haven't had this nor seen it done since I was in New Mexico with my youth group, probably 4 years ago. Now, if I remember correctly, this was done by fingertips, by mixing your shortening into your flour mixture before we add our water into it. Because once we add our water into it, we want it to come to like a tacky pizza dough type consistency. And then we're going to knead it for a couple of minutes before we let it rest for a while. But I want to get this started first because it has to rest for 30 to 60 minutes. And the potato soup recipe I have came from when I was actually in high school in French class. I had to do a project, and I already liked to cook back then, so I decided to make a French cookbook recipe. So I looked up a bunch of French recipes, and one of them was this potato soup recipe. So this has been eaten at my house by my family when I was a teenager all the way through, and my family likes it. Well, not so much Zeke, because he says he's not a fan of soups very much, but he will eat the potato soup. So I can feel that this shortening has kind of get it a little almost grainy, but you can't feel big globs of it anymore, and you want to keep rubbing that through so that it's not, you don't want to have big chunks of it in there, because that'll not be really well for your fry bread. I noticed the other day that when I was reviewing my video that I say the word consistency a lot. So I'm going to try not to say consistency too much today. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We're going to add in the 1/4 cup. It said to add almost all of the water. This is one thing with baking, is you just don't want to add all of it right away, because if you add too much, then you don't get the right consistency. Oh, there you go, I said it. So you want it to be sort of sticky. And your warm water will probably activate that baking powder salt mixture. Make sure you scrape down to the bottom and get all of the flour up from the very bottom. It's starting to get a little tacky. Add a little more water to it. A lot of people could just throw this in their mix master and have that do the mixing and the kneading. It's starting to get pretty tacky. I don't think I'm going to add any more water to it, because I think if I add more water, it's going to get way too sticky. Yeah, see, it's sticky as it is right now. So it says to knead it. And then we're going to be moving this from, yeah, it's very tacky. Probably added a little too much. We're going to move this into a greased bowl shortly. Yeah. And the kneading is going to take some of the tackiness out of it, but not a lot. It shouldn't say Cooking 101 with Paula, it should say Cooking Experiments with Paula. Yeah, it's getting a little better. Not as sticky as I need it. Should have just thrown some flour on my counter and kneaded it out there. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take this out of the bowl. Move this bowl out of the way. And I just greased this bowl with a little bit of Crisco, which is what I used as my... Yeah. Well, this will be a good experiment to see how it worked. So now we're going to just let this sit for about 30 to 60 minutes. And I'm going to try to turn this off. This is another simple recipe. For me, I am going to double it because my family likes this. You need a 1/4 cup of chopped onion, 2 tablespoons of butter, 3 cups of water, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 cups of diced potatoes, and 1 tall can of evaporated milk. So just a 12 fluid ounce can. And sorry, Paul, this one has onions in it too. Once you have your potatoes peeled, I'm just going to show you with one. You don't need to watch me peel all of them. I like to cut them into bite-sized pieces. So they're about this big. That way they'll cook uniformly. That's it. So I'm going to use 4 cups of diced potatoes because I'm doubling the recipe. You only need 2, and that's actually not very many potatoes. While I am peeling and chopping my potatoes, I am going to get my butter melted into the pan and my onions sauteing so that they can get soft and translucent while I'm finishing up the potatoes. So I just want to let these start to soften in the butter. Alright, my onions have cooked down. They're nice and translucent and soft. I'm going to add my potatoes. This is where you would add your 2 cups of potatoes, but as I said, I'm doubling my recipe, so there's 4. It was only like 6 potatoes, which is great. And then you would add 3 cups of water. I'm adding 6 because I doubled. And then you're going to need to add a teaspoon of salt to this. I said it's very basic, very easy. Try to find a teaspoon in the drawer. And since I'm doubling it, I'm going to double my salt. And then you just bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you're going to boil for approximately 20 minutes or until the potatoes are nice and tender. Okay, I gave it a shot, checked to see how this was going to work out, and it was pretty sticky, so I'm going to show you what I did. Make sure you flour your rolling pin when you do this, and it's supposed to be 6 pieces, but see how sticky this still is? So we'll have to see if it even turns out. Get a little bit of the flour on it because you don't want it to stick. And then just give it a roll because we're going to roll it out into it's very sticky. And add a little flour to the top too. We want to give it roll out till it's about the thickness of a tortilla. If it's sticking, just keep flipping. Add a little more flour to your rolling pin. These don't have to be pretty. It doesn't matter, we're just going to eat them. Get a nice thin consistency on it. I'm just going to kind of slide them aside. And then I'm just going to keep continuing till I have approximately 6. I may have a little more because I didn't take a lot of dough with me the first time. Okay, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I take my potato masher, and as the potatoes are getting tender, just about to the end of it, I like to give it a little bit of a coarse mash so that it's not all just big chunks of potato. This is also a way you'll know if your potatoes are about ready. And once you get it to this point where there's a nice little mash in it, it also gives it a little bit of thicker consistency. Otherwise it has a tendency to be very, very thin. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your cans of, or can if you're only doing a single recipe, of condensed milk, give it a shake, and I don't know if you guys own these, it's a church key. Couldn't cook without it. Don't know why it's called a church key, but then just add in your condensed milk. And as I said, because I doubled my recipe, I have one more can to put in. It's also a leftover favorite. This is one leftover that my family will eat. Give your can a good shake. Add that last can. And then what you're going to want to do is just bring this up to temperature, just to a very light simmer, so that you know it's heated through. And then I'll share one little secret with you that I added into this that I've never told anyone that I've put in my recipe when I handed it out. This fry bread recipe called to bring your griddle to a temperature of 350 degrees, but I do not have a griddle, so I'm going to put this at about a medium heat. Let this pan heat up a minute, and then we'll give it a shot and see how it goes. All right, we're going to give it a try. We're going to put a piece of bread in here and see how it goes. Decide to put it in the pan on the griddle, and then when it starts getting some brown spots on it, then go ahead and flip it. So we'll let it start to cook and see what it looks like. I'm not really sure how this is going, so what I may do, it's not really quite getting there. What I may do is I may, when I take this one out, add some oil to the pan, because I have done Indian fry bread before and fried it in oil. Never just done it on a griddle like this. So we'll have to see how this turns out. A little Crisco to my pan, and I'm going to try to fry it up in my Crisco and see if that one works better. It might work a little bit better. I can already see that it looks a little closer to what I'm used to making. Let's see how it looks when we flip it. Alright, that worked out a lot better by putting it in the oil. So we've got some nice fry bread, inexpensive, easy to eat. And then here's my little secret ingredient. I just grate a little bit of nutmeg into my soup, and I do that to taste, and then you'll want salt and pepper to taste also. Thanks everyone, have a great night. So here you have it. Potato soup with some Indian fry bread. The only thing you need to make this meal complete is a green salad. Stay safe out there, everyone.